Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Deck, and if you enjoy talking about movies in any way, shape or form, you're going to feel right at home here. In today's video I'm going to be doing a summative review video, as over the last month I have watched quite a lot of movies as I've actually returned to the cinema, and I just want to throw them all into one video because a lot of these films I don't have enough to say about them to make a whole review of, so I just thought I'd slap them all together into this one video. So let's just go through these one by one. I'll just give my quick little thoughts on them and then we'll move on to the next one. So with all that said and all that out of the way, let's jump into it. Kicking us off is Proxima. Now Proxima was a film going into it I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know a lot about it. I basically knew the poster and I knew that this was one of the first new release films to be coming out, at least here in the UK, with the cinemas reopening. So going into this film I was more just excited to be back into the cinema. But coming out of the movie I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a really entertaining, really interesting film that really focuses on a core relationship between a mother and a daughter, and it's set with this backdrop of this space exploration mission, which I thought was a really interesting way of telling this kind of story, because this is kind of like the anti-First Man, in the sense that First Man was a really great film that I love, and while it focuses a lot on the personal stuff to do with Ryan Gosling, who's obviously portraying Neil Armstrong, and it focuses on his family life, but equally First Man also focuses on the actual space exploration and the space program stuff with NASA. What Proxima does is it purely focuses in on the family aspect of the film, which I think was a really interesting and fresh take to take a movie like this. So in the end I thought this movie was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's by no means my favourite movie of the year or anything like that, but I enjoyed it. Then we have Host, which was a really unique horror film that was filmed completely under the COVID regulations. And this film is really interesting to watch because basically this film completely takes place over a Zoom call, and you have multiple different actors and actresses in different rooms, and they are just creating this horror movie out of it. And it was actually really fun. I really enjoyed this. I had a great time with it. Is it a great movie? Not particularly, but for what it is and what it's trying to do, I actually think it massively succeeds. And my favourite thing about it is that the movie is really heavily improvised, and you can tell because the movie just flows in a way that feels so natural. These characters feel like real people. They feel like they have truly mastered the art of just nailing this friendship between them and this history and this chemistry. I've not really seen anything quite like it in a while, especially because a lot of the characters in this movie are British, and they really felt like British people and how they would react and how they would talk to each other in a situation like this. So I think this movie really just hit the nail on the head, really. And again, being filmed under the COVID regulations just made it a really interesting film and very timely, and kind of created this fun spin on what is a pretty horrific situation. So in the end, I really enjoyed Host, and I would highly recommend you watch it if you haven't. It's on Shudder, on Amazon Prime, so make sure you go check it out if you haven't, because it's a very interesting watch. Then we have The Truth, which is a film that I, again, pretty much like Proxima, didn't really know anything about going into it, other than that my friend who I watched it with really wanted to see it. I'd never heard of it before, but this is a French-English film, and this is actually done by the director of Shoplifters, which is a film I've not seen. I own it on Blu-ray, I intend to watch it, but it's actually his French-English debut, and this film is essentially about a relationship, a bit like Proxima, between a mother and daughter, and how the mother, who is this aging, old, sort of golden age French actress, has written a book of memoirs, and there's a whole bunch of lies within this memoir. So it's the mother and the daughter trying to reconcile that, and at the same time she is also making a movie about a mother and daughter relationship, and it kind of all feeds together like that. And this movie I thought was just a bit boring. It wasn't really for me. Like, I'm not saying this movie's bad. I don't think it was bad. It just wasn't really my thing. I was watching the movie and I was engaged enough. I was able to follow the story enough. I mean, there wasn't anything huge within it, but there were a couple of things that I was a bit unsure of and was kind of finding difficult to follow at certain points. But overall, this movie for me, like, while I respect it and I admire it and I think it is very good and I think it's very well made, just personally for me, I just didn't really enjoy it all that much. Then we have Unhinged, which is the Russell Crowe movie, and this is kind of like another one of those big first new releases with cinemas reopening, and this movie was just absurd. I couldn't believe what I was watching with this movie. Was it entertaining? Yes, this movie is not boring. However, it's also just incredibly ridiculous. Like, this movie has incredibly balls-to-the-wall performance with Russell Crowe. Like, he just knows what kind of movie he's in, and he is just living it up, and it's very entertaining to watch. But this movie is just ridiculous. Like, the way the action works, the way, like, the whole concept of the movie is ridiculous. The fact that someone came up with this idea and wrote a screenplay around it absolutely baffles me. But at the same time, I really enjoyed it, and I actually thought it was really fun. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again, but as a one-time watch in the cinema, as one of the first movies I went back with, it was a good enough time at least. Then we have an American Pickle, which is a HBO Max movie which actually got a wide theatrical release here in the UK. And this movie I, again, knew really nothing about. I knew basically the poster, I knew it was an HBO Max movie, but I actually went into this thinking it was going to be a serious drama. I actually thought this was going to be like Seth Rogen's serious role. But the movie's not quite like that. The movie's actually a lot more comedic. But for me, American Pickle, it just didn't really work because the movie wasn't serious enough for me to actually take it seriously, and then at the same time it wasn't funny enough to make the silly moments work either. So it's kind of in this weird middle ground for me personally that just didn't really gel with me. I think Seth Rogen's good in the movie, I think he does a good job, and I definitely feel like this was like a passion project for him. And I do feel like the movie has got a lot of good things going for it. It's just, for me personally, like I say, tonally, it's kind of in this weird middle ground that doesn't quite work for me, because it's kind of satire, but kind of not, and for me, it kind of just felt like it was a bit jumbled in the middle. I saw my friend who I watched the movie with, and she said it was kind of like Baby's first Wes Anderson, and I think that's a great way to describe it. You know, it is very quirky, it's a bit weird, but it doesn't quite nail it. So it's one of those weird things. I think some people will really enjoy this movie. For me personally, though, it just didn't quite work. Following that, we have Baby Teeth, and this movie, just to go out there straight away, this movie was just so not my thing. It's just so not for me. I think this film was quite a bit ahead of where I'm ready as an audience member to really appreciate a film like this. Not that it's particularly confusing, but it's just one of those films that I think you have to be within a certain mindset, especially as a film goer, to really appreciate this film and enjoy it for what it's trying to do. That's just not really me. So for me personally, this film kind of just went straight over my head. I didn't enjoy it at all, really, and just to put it into context, if you follow me on Letterboxd, this is actually my least favourite movie of the year. This is right at the bottom. And again, like I said with The Truth, I don't think this is a bad movie. I actually think it's a very good movie. It just wasn't my thing, and I didn't enjoy it in any way, shape, or form. But I don't want to take away from the film, because again, I do think it is quite good, and I think some people will watch this movie and love what it does. It's just, for me, not at all. Then I watched The Vigil, which is a new horror movie, and this was fine. Like, it wasn't particularly exciting. I found The Vigil to be a bit boring, because this film just has a lot, and I mean a lot, of exposition, and this is supposed to be a horror film, and a lot of the movie, particularly in the first half, is just this kind of clueless character being spoken to by multiple different characters and videos and stuff like that, just explaining the, you know, the lore and the world and the plot, and it just didn't really work for me. And then when you get into the second half of the movie, when the horror actually begins and the scares start to happen, they are there, but they are incredibly predictable, and there's nothing particularly original about it. So when you're watching it, you kind of can easily see the scares coming. You know when the jump scares are going to happen. So it doesn't really work on that level either. So I think this movie is fine. Like, it's okay. It's just not exactly outstanding either. It's just somewhere down there. I didn't particularly enjoy it, and I just thought it was very meh. So there you have it, guys. There's everything I've seen so far in the month of August. Again, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do individual reviews for all of these movies. It's just, I watched them all very, very close together. I literally watched like 8 movies on the weekend, pretty much all back to back, so I didn't have time to review them all individually. And also, as you could tell by watching this, I didn't really have that much to say about a lot of them, so I thought I'd just clump them all together in this one video. But make sure you guys, if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like. I'd really appreciate that, and also subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me. And you also want to stay tuned to the channel, because my next full movie review that I will be doing will be for Christopher Nolan's Tenet. We are nearly there. It's been a long time coming. There's been a lot of delays, but it's finally here. By the time this video goes up, I probably would have gotten my tickets for Tenet, so I will be watching Tenet next week, and you'll have a review very, very soon. But I want to thank you guys for watching as always, and I hope to see you guys again next time.